Okay, and we're recording.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the final plenary of the 2024 Veterans for Peace National Convention. We are so honored that the convention organizers have focused so much on the horrific genocide that's going on in Gaza now, the horrific brutality that's going on in the West Bank, and the complicity of the United States in the Israeli genocide that's going on with the providing of huge amounts of weaponry. Just recently, the $20 billion of more weapons that will be supplied to Israel. We thank everyone who has spoken already in the various workshops that we've had and plenary sessions about the tragedy, the horrific tragedy that we see with our own eyes going on right now. And our last panel for the whole Veterans for Peace National Convention is focused on citizen activism to try to stop the genocide and try to stop the brutality of Israel in the West Bank and stop the U.S. complicity with all of that. As a part of that, we know that each one of you all in your communities have been doing so much over the last many years in highlighting the occupation that's going on in Gaza and the West Bank, but particularly since October with the horrific brutality, the genocide that's going on. You all have upped everything in every community in which a Veterans for Peace member is, and particularly in the chapters. And your solidarity with the Palestinian communities, your solidarity with Arab communities has been really important to them and important to us as an organization, where we challenge U.S. militarization. We challenge the United States policies. So this final plenary session is about citizen activism, and one form of citizen activism that's been going on for the last 16 years, since 2008, when a group of people organized an organization called the Free Gaza Movement, and they decided they were going to try to send little boats to break the illegal Israeli naval blockade of Gaza. And in 2008, they broke the blockade 5 times with these tiny little boats. But at late 2008 and then going into 2009, the Israeli government again brutally attacked Gaza with what the operation was called Cast Lead, and over 1,400 Palestinians were killed in 27 days. So after that, the Free Gaza movement decided that it was time for a flotilla of many boats to try to sail to bring international attention to what was transpiring in Gaza and the illegal naval blockade, but of course then the horrific destruction that had gone on in 2009, which is minor compared to what we now see, what the Israelis have done in the last 10 months of just the crushing of so much of the buildings of Gaza, hospitals, universities, you name it, and there's no impunity that the Israelis go after anything they want, and the United States sits back and says essentially nothing. So for citizens of the world to stand up to say, we say something, we will try to challenge this. And since 2008, we have had 35 boats that have gone to sail to challenge the Israeli blockade of Gaza. And each one of them since 2008 has been met with Israeli brutality. In 2010, 10 people were killed by the Israelis on the Mavi Marmara. 50 people were wounded. Everyone that was on the other 6 ships of that flotilla were assaulted, beaten up, tasered. I was on one of those ships, and I can tell you There was a lot of brutality that was there. Then in 2011, we had 10 ships that were in Greece, in Greek waters, and the Greek government was paid off by the Israeli government, and sweetheart deals with other governments to include the United States. So those boats were unable to leave Greek waters, even though we tried to escape. And in fact, our U.S. boat to Gaza, called Audacity of Hope, Barack Obama was the president at the time, so we used his book, the name of his book, The Audacity of Hope, to name our ship. We tried to escape and were met by Greek commandos that stopped our ship. The Canadian boat tried to escape down on the island of Crete and were stopped. As it turned out, 2 boats later in the year were able to leave and actually challenged the blockade. In 2013, the Estelle challenged the blockade. In 2015, the Marianne, a ship from Sweden, and 3 other small sailboats. 2016 was the women's boat to Gaza, where women crew, captain, crew, and passengers, participants challenged that blockade. And then in 2018, we had the Al Auda ship and a sailboat called Freedom, and 2 other sailboats that attempted to break the Israeli blockade of Gaza. And now in 2024, we have the Hondola that is currently in the Mediterranean on its mission to go towards Gaza and to attempt to bring more international attention to the genocide going on. Earlier this year in 2024, we also had another Flotilla initiative, and that was called Break the Siege. And we had 3 boats in Turkey, 2 large passenger ships and a cargo ship to break the siege. We had a number of Veterans for Peace members who came all the way to Istanbul, Turkey, to be with us, to be a part of this historic event. They are with us today, along with associate members of Veterans for Peace that were there, and they will be telling us of their impressions and their why they wanted to come and be a part of breaking the siege. So our very first person that we'll ask to talk about his experiences in Istanbul and why he came all the way to Istanbul is the past national president of Veterans for Peace, Elliot Adams, and a person who we had invited to be one of our nonviolence trainers for all of the hundreds of people that had come in from 35 countries to be a part of this. So Elliot, welcome, and we look forward to your comments about what happened in Istanbul. Please.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you for the incredible work you did for the coalition. Good evening, friends. Hope to give you a small window into being part of the flotilla. You have seen the horror of what Israel/US is intentionally doing in Gaza and the rest of Palestine. It is impossible to even watch, but it still cries out to our very souls for action. It was exciting to watch so many people arriving in Istanbul, knowing the personal risk, coming from all over the world with such dedication and commitment. For example, I was walking in front of the famous Blue Mosque in Istanbul wearing a Break the Siege t-shirt when a young woman walked up to me in a hijab and asked if I was part of the Freedom Flotilla. When I said yes, she said, "I am so jealous." She applied and was not chosen. She said, "I so want to go deliver aid to Gaza." So that was one voice. They came knowing the risk to life, and even that all our personal belongings were likely to be lost or stolen. Our electronics be thrown overboard. Our credit cards were likely to be used by the Israelis. So they came, and I just need to give a quick shout out to the Freedom Flotilla, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition Organizing Committee. They had to, and still are, negotiating the complex geopolitics of confronting the Israeli-U.S. ruthless arm twisting just to make it so the flotilla can sail. And they're still working at that. In Istanbul, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition was fortunate to work with İHA, the biggest charitable aid group in Turkey, and one of the biggest in the world, serving 123 countries. I know, I never heard of it before either. And the Mavi Marmara Freedom and Solidarity Association, which was founded by the surviving family members of people killed by the Israelis on the Mavi Marmara. Besides a freighter ship filled with 5,500 tons of humanitarian aid and 6 ambulances, the Mavi Marmara Association had another real ship for passengers. She had 9 decks, 2 of which were drive decks where trucks and cars could be driven in, cabins for hundreds of passengers, dining area and commercial kitchen to serve all those people, several public gathering areas where you could show films or presentation, and even an area of worship to worship, not warship, but worship. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition was clear. This trip was not to be a suicide mission. So the Freedom Coalition wisely decided that if attacked, they would call all passengers together to 2 designated areas. So the commandos could be watched, and there could be mutual support among the members. They also decided that no one would be on deck, since that's where most people were shot and killed before. They called for nonviolence and required everybody to take nonviolence training. As we thought about the nonviolence training would look like for this situation, we realized was unlike anything we usually do, because any nonviolent resistance to hold space, to take time, locked arms, glue downs, lock boxes, etc., would only increase the violence of the commandos bent on hijacking our ship. The Flotilla Coalition provided multiple nonviolent trainings to reach all members, even though there were many languages and cultures. The flotilla members had to be prepared that in addition to hijacking our ship, the Israelis would intentionally try to provoke our members into doing some acts they could film and use to justify their violence. So, in closing, I just want to say the Palestinians have been steadfast in holding to their humanity in face of the U.S.-Israeli genocide. We should each look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what are we doing? And more importantly, what more can we do? And last, I'd like to remember my hero, Aaron Bushnell. He said, many of us like to ask ourselves, what would I do if my country was committing genocide? The answer is, you're doing it right now. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Elliot. And we appreciate so much the nonviolence training that you gave. Lisa Fithian was another one of our trainers who's an associate member of Veterans for Peace. And the 2 of them plus several others really did provide very realistic experience for our participants, to include people that were brought in to pretend they were IOF soldiers, and with all the noise and confusion and chaos, to realistically show what could happen. And we thank you for all of that. You did mention our coalition, and I should have mentioned that myself. We have an international coalition that's been together since 2010, and it is comprised of national campaigns to include our own campaign here in the United States. We have a campaign in Canada. We have a campaign in Norway, Sweden, Germany, the UK, now Ireland, Spain, France, Italy, Turkey, New Zealand, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, and Brazil. The new two ones are Brazil and Ireland that were formed this year. And it's a wonderful group of people that we've been working with for now 14 years. So we've met each other in places all over Europe, and it's a solid group of people who are solidly there to challenge the Israeli blockade, to challenge our own government's complicity in these things. The next person that we will ask for her impressions of what happened in Istanbul is Mary Beth Brownlee, a woman that I met for the very first time in the halls of the U.S. Congress when she brought her 12-year-old son, or 11-year-old son at the time, to the Congress to be with us as we lobbied in the Congress to try to get members of Congress to first sign on to a ceasefire, to try to stop the authorization of weapons to Israel. And as we were chatting with her, all of a sudden it came out that she's in the Army and has been in the Army and is in the National Guard right now. So Mary Beth, we are so pleased that you are with us now in Veterans for Peace, and bring with you such an experience that you've had in the military and now are using it to challenge our government's policies on Gaza. So welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Hi, thank you for having me. So as Ann said, I'm Mary Beth. I'm from Philly. I have 18 years in the Army between active duty and reserves as a logistics officer, which includes 2 tours in Iraq. So a lot of what I do is moving things under hostile conditions. And so it was actually my kids and their dad, they wanted to do a family trip to DC over spring break. And my 11-year-old is like, let's go do some political action. And I said, okay, we can sign up for a day at Code Pink together. So we do that. And in the morning, and people know Anne from her videos and things, being arrested, where she even will like issue orders to the police officer arresting her on how to do it properly. And so I said, oh, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I was in the Army and this, and Anne is listening to me like I'm very interesting. And it's not all that interesting, I don't think. And then later casually mentioned, so I'm doing this thing called the Flotilla. Have you heard of the Flotilla? Well, I had heard of it in the past and so on. And do you want to be part of it? Okay. But at this point now, my husband Ben was taking the kids to Southern Virginia to stay with his parents, and I thought I'm gonna have to pitch this to Ben that, hey, by the way, after this like 12-hour drive with traffic from Southern Virginia with 2 feral boys in the car by yourself, I would like to go to Istanbul, to go to Gaza directly, probably end up in an Israeli prison for a while until I'm deported, and all these things. But that man, he knows who he married, because the first thing he said was, how do we get you on this mission? And so to me, being involved with Flotilla is a very obvious and logical progression from the activism work that I had been doing in the United States. But it was time for more, because things weren't working out the way they needed to. Also, I took back the autonomy to decide what is the enemy in any situation and to maintain internal consistency. If you are a hero, when the United States government sends you to the Middle East to shoot, to kill, to damage, if you say, no, United States government, I don't accept the terms of who you've defined as an enemy. And right now, what I define as an enemy is the lack of humanity perpetuated and propagated by my own government. And therefore, in making that autonomous decision, I would go on the flotilla, not because I had a death wish. I would like to be alive to raise my children. But because I'm also not willing to raise my children in a world where we can live stream a genocide and just accept that as a matter of fact. That is absolutely inappropriate. And my kids will see that just as I led soldiers, I lead by example as a parent and as a mother. And they will see me leading by example that we stand with the oppressed. We do not mindlessly accept propaganda provided to us by our government of who we should hate and not hate. And we can do something about it. We also have tremendous social privilege. My spouse is an attorney. He is also a now retired lieutenant colonel, veteran himself, American passport holders, not to mention like the visual racial privilege we have. So there are many, many reasons why it was obvious for me to go on flotilla. My kids, it was a family mission. Their dad explained to them at one point, a little bit more information as you go. Mom may end up in an Israeli prison. There was no fear for my kids. My 8-year-old said to his dad, well, then we'll go get her. We will go to Israel and we will fight them. We will break her out. So like whatever goes down, my boys will avenge me, and like God help the rest of the world. It was a privilege to meet so many people on board, and that is actually where I first learned about Veterans for Peace, was through the VFP members who were on flotilla. And again, you're just like, there's a whole organization of people like me who want to be dedicated to peaceful pursuits in acknowledging that true peace only comes with liberation. Wow, I should join them. And so I did. And here I am now at the virtual conference. So since I got back from flotilla, and I stayed an extra 2 weeks to try and grease the skids, do what I could to get us out the gate. But now I'm back full time in medical school using my GI Bill for that. So inshallah, next year I will graduate and be a physician because, medicine is also my ministry, in addition to being a general all-around hellraiser at large. I'm happy to answer any questions. Maybe if Jason is on, he can tell the story of how when we got told we had to go home, that he and I wanted to rent like a small boat and pretend that we were like a honeymooning couple and just accidentally steer the boat to Gaza. And then when Israel stopped us, I just rely on their implicit racism and sexism because, right, isms don't exist in a vacuum. If you hate one group, you're probably hating all of them. And just be like, I'm so sorry, lady driver. How did I end up breaking your illegal blockade? Oh my goodness, my new husband is going to be so mad. Talked to one of the other guys, Teague Barry, about like, can't we get a tugboat if we don't have flags? And just like push the big boat. No, okay. But we came up with a lot of schemes, and like I said, we'll keep fighting. I'm also now very involved with Heal Palestine in the United States and bringing kids and a guardian here for medical care. So the work continues. And that's all I got for now.
Great.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Mary Beth. And I know that you, as you mentioned, you stayed 2 weeks, and I believe you and several others spoke at many events in Istanbul. Do you want to speak a little about that, of the places that you?
Oh, sure. We did a university tour. Speaking events. We would go to like the protests in Istanbul, and of course, the people were just beautiful, loving, receptive to us. And at one of the protests, without any prep, Ismail of the Mavi Marmara Foundation, he's like, Mary Beth, hands me the Bluetooth mic, do some American chants. Now, I don't do a whole lot of chanting here in Philly because like white ladies don't need to be on the mic at Palestine events, right? It's like Palestinians push forward and support them. So I did like, oh, free Palestine, do this, do that, do whatever. Now, one we do in Philly a lot, Menomaya Lilmaye. And I'd heard the Turkish people doing Arabic ones before, and I did that, and it was like dead silence, awkward. But a friend I had made in Turkey who speaks 3 or 4 languages, she's actually, she's Kurdish living in Turkey. She took over, this lovely woman with English as her like 4th language, and she did the English language chants for me because I failed at it. But yeah, and they would ask me to speak, and I was there. It was a Mother's Day, and I was still in Istanbul. And I said, today is American Mother's Day, and I'm choosing to be away from my children because every child is my child. And after I spoke, like people were really excited. And in fact, this like one of the ladies with the Palestinian flag colors, she came and tied it on me, and like all these bracelets were given to me by people in Turkey. So it was an enlightening experience, even if we didn't get the aid there. It was reinvigorating to bring the lessons learned back home and do the work here.
Indeed. And just to kind of fill in the gaps, we had 3 ships, 2 passenger ships, 1 cargo ship. And the night before we were to put participants on one of the big cargo ships, the country of Guinea-Bissau that had flagged that ship took the flag away, and saying that they had to do inspections on the big ship to make sure that it was still complying with safety and all sorts of things. And we knew full well that it was a ploy by the government of Israel, which has done such things before. And in fact, 2011 was the government of Israel that put the Greek government up to inspecting every one of our 10 ships then, and coming up with all sorts of administrative things that they say we weren't complying with. Well, that's exactly what happened to us in Istanbul right before we were to sail. And the upshot of that is that the flags are one issue, but the second issue is that the government of Turkey is now refusing to let the 2 ships leave. The cargo ship has left several different times and has taken a huge amount of cargo, medicines and non-perishable food items to El Arish, Egypt, where those items, 5,500 tons, have been taken to El Arish and put on trucks, and those trucks are part of the long line of trucks that are waiting to get in. But we had all of these people that had come all the way to Istanbul, had waited through several delays, and then on the last moment, the rug was pulled out from under us with this flagging issue. But
well, and if I can piggyback, Anne, I think maybe my parting words, I had just as a hobby been keeping track of the changes in logistics support, humanitarian logistics support, getting in and out of Gaza from like pre-October until now, and sort of the up and down shifts with the changes in the tactical environment, just like for funsies, because I'm a nerd. And so 5,500 tons of aid is like one day for the northern half of Gaza. So it's important to continue to keep in mind that the flotilla, while the humanitarian aid is important, while those 8 fully stocked ambulances that were on the ship were important, the objective is breaking this illegal blockade and challenging that. And so I mentioned that just so everyone listening can understand, 5,500 tons sounds like a lot when you don't realize just how desperate the need is, as we continue also to work to dismantle the conditions that create the need in the first place.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And for everyone, we will have time for questions and comments at the end of this. So please have them in store for us. Next, we're going to show you a video, which is of the Mavi Marmara, the ship in 2010 that was attacked by the Israeli commandos. And these are the same commandos that have been, this same commando unit has been one of the most brutal units that has gone into many of the hospitals in Gaza and have shot up patients and, I mean, horrible things. Well, it's this same commando unit number 13 that attacked the Mavi Marmara in 2010 and is there to challenge anybody that tries to get close to Gaza. And we think it's important that you can see the brutality, what happens with these flotillas, where each one of them has been stopped by the Israeli commandos. So thank you, Ellen, for queuing that up. And let's see this segment of Midnight on the Mavi Marmara, I believe is the part of it, Cultures of Resistance, that filmed this. Thank you.
They have drones.
That's Yara Lee.
We also saw some sort of aircraft. It's not clear what type of aircraft, whether it was a helicopter or a drone, on the distance.
They are going towards us. One is behind the Daphne, and there are three coming this way, and there's one farther away, okay?
Nosotros creemos que es un auténtico disparate el atacar por la noche, porque podría ocasionar víctimas mortales, es algo que no queremos, somos pacifistas, y el pánico que podría cundir entre las cientos de personas que hay aquí ante un ataque de un ejército en un barco de esas características podría ser fatal. Hemos hecho un llamamiento por las redes sociales y por internet a que la ciudadanía despierte a sus políticos y que los pongan activos y que pasen la noche con nosotros, atentos a lo que pudiera pasar. De momento estamos retransmitiendo en directo vía satélite, se puede seguir por internet y creemos que es necesario que la comunidad internacional hoy no duerma, esté con nosotros apoyándonos y en el mejor de los casos diciendo a sus políticos que tienen que actuar ya, ahora, ya.
Allahu Akbar.
The Israelis attacked under the cover of darkness, while many of us were conducting our morning prayers.
The Israelis are shooting.
Yes, let's go inside, going to the breast room.
I assisted in placing water hoses over the rails and spraying the Israeli soldiers with water to deter them from boarding the ship. They then came with helicopters.
Tutun birisi el atın. Yardım et.
I counted 8 commandos come down on ropes. The laser dots of the Israeli soldiers and their weaponry can be seen searching for targets.
सर अपने सर पासपोर्ट मुझे दें मैं सेव करूं जैकेट को पासपोर्ट और पॉकेट वगैरह दें मैं उसको रैपिंग में करके टेप लगाऊं
Get me some water. أصيبت مصاب على هذا السطح وهم يطلقون النار من هذه الجهة من الجهة المقابلة للكاميرا. نعم. إذا الوضع جد خطير. هناك عدد من المصابين، عدد ربما من الصعب الآن حصره ولكنه ربما 10 أو ربما أكثر من المصابين.
Soon, another helicopter was above me, and I counted 12 to 14 soldiers rappelling down.
We've had several injuries here. One is critical. He has been injured in the head. We think he may die if he does not receive medical treatment immediately. Another person being taken past behind in front of me right now has been seriously injured. We are being hit by tear gas, stun grenades. We have Navy ships on either side and helicopters overhead. We are being attacked from every single side.
It's now been confirmed that one person indeed has been killed by the Israeli army, which has been using live munition on these civilians. The ships remain in international waters, yet the Israeli army, together with a helicopter as well as naval ships, have surrounded the ship. All phones have been jammed, making it impossible to contact the outside world. They have tried to dismantle the satellite we are broadcasting from. However, this remains operational. The organizers are telling me now that they are raising a white flag. They are raising a white flag to the Israeli army. This is after one person has been killed, a civilian who was killed. Despite the white flag being raised, the Israeli army is still shooting, still firing live munitions.
هم يحاولون الآن الدخول بليز with the camera here. يحاولون الدخول الآن الجنود المسلحون المدججون بالسلاح يحاولون الدخول من هنا. الآن نزلوا هم هبطوا بالواقع على سطح السفينة ومن ثم بدأوا إنزال على الأسطح السفلى من السفينة ما أدى إلى إصابة العشرات بينهم إصابات خطيرة وأيضا هناك شهيد على متن هذه السفينة.
We tried to defend ourselves and protect our ship. But in the end, it was metal bars and broomsticks against guns and live ammunition. Despite this uneven battle, the heroic men of the Mavi Marmara captured a number of commandos.
Behold, 2 soldiers down here bleeding and wounded.
Although the passengers had just witnessed the Israeli soldiers killing and wounding their family and friends, these commandos were protected, provided with medical care, and then released back to their unit.
Well, that gives you a real sense of the brutality that occurred on the Mavi Marmara in 2010. And as I mentioned, each one of our boats in 2010 was boarded by commandos and people beaten up and tasered. But it was on the Mavi Marmara that 10 people were killed and 50 people were wounded. We know this is a dangerous citizen activism project that we have, but people are willing to take the dangers because it is important that we challenge the inequities that we see, the horrific things we see, and the genocides that we see. And that's why these people have volunteered to be on the various flotillas. Another person from our Veterans for Peace organization, and actually part of my chapter of 113 in Hawaii, Jason Missoula came to us from the Coast Guard and from let's see, was it the Marines or the Army? He's had a lengthy military experience and is now coming from the island of Molokai, where he and his family have lived for several years, and is moving to the big city in Honolulu, where we are looking forward to him and his wife to be a part of our Palestine solidarity group there. Jason has a unique story of what he helped us with this year before he even came to Istanbul. So Jason, we are pleased to have you with us, and please tell them what all you did.
Thank you, Anne. So yeah, it was the Army National Guard in addition to the Coast Guard. So I left sometime late April and was asked to go to Italy, and I flew to Via Reggio. We were going to, I was going to be part of a small crew helping take a ship down, I think, to Sicily, and wait to meet up with the somewhere in the Mediterranean with the rest of the flotilla. And it wound up not, the ship wound up not being seaworthy. So, but we waited until we knew that that wasn't going to happen, and went from Via Reggio to wound up in Venice, where there was another potential small boat. And then from there, when the plug got pulled on that, I flew to Istanbul and met up with the rest of the folks. Well, my wife and my 2 babies, who now, Omid just turned 2 and Azad will be 1 on September 10th. So they were even younger then. And our youngest son learned to crawl while I was gone. And our oldest son's vocabulary, I mean, he added so many more words by the time I got home, but I would leave again in a heartbeat. And I'm still on the email thread. If Turkey allows us to leave, I'm going to, just because we're very fortunate and privileged to have the family. My wife's family lives with, we live really close by, but I can't in good conscience. I know that my babies are safe, they're healthy, and I struggle to comprehend how so many people all around the world can be so just okay with the death of so many children. I mean, I'm not okay with anyone being killed, but when the death of so many children isn't bothering people, like that really, yeah, on just a very deep level, that's been very devastating and crushing. But the flip side of that is all of the incredible people, like Anne, obviously, and the Mary Beth I met in Istanbul, but just so many incredible human beings. And the group, the small, I don't know how much we can get into it, but my little affinity group, I guess, was mostly Barry was part of it, and then it was mostly made up of folks from Malaysia who are risking considerably more than we are traveling on American passports, because while Malaysia has ties with the nation of Hawaii, they don't have ties with Israel. So, and yeah, I've never met such incredible people as the folks we met from Malaysia, and from everywhere, but specifically I got to know in my affinity group, and they made these shirts, but so Anne, I don't know.
Well, thank you, Jason. And,
Yeah.
you know, we had asked Jason and a team to go to Italy to check out a boat because we wanted to have several more boats that would be part of the flotilla. And Jason, with his background in the Coast Guard and knowledge of watercraft, kindly volunteered to head for Italy. And tell us about the people that were there that were helping look at the ship to determine whether or not we should purchase that ship, who they were and their background. I think one of them was Warren and one
Yes,
was
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
there's some really incredible people. I think many of them were from Canada. I
Mhm.
think, and
Yeah.
Warren is a captain that had come down from Vancouver, and John, and I don't know if any of them are on this call, but they're yeah, just some really great folks who have, and that's the one thing that kind of keeps you going in all of this, is just all of the people that you see the flip side of it. It's very obvious how many people don't care, and it's I think there's just as many people that do, and that's the one thing that when I spoke to Anne originally about joining the flotilla, and well, I know Anne really well through Veterans for Peace Hawaii, and we met in handcuffs years ago out at Creech Air Force Base in the Nevada desert. But I really look up to Anne, and for me, she's just a mentor and a just incredible human being. And she said this ship is full of Annes, and she wasn't. There's just every other person I talked to. This one man from Argentina worked with Doctors Without Borders. He'd been in Gaza like handful of times over the years, and there were so many people just so who've dedicated their lives to just making the world a better place. And I know that I'm not giving up, and Anne's not giving up, and none of them are giving up. And it's only a matter of time before there's justice for the Palestinian people and for all people. But I very much look forward to the Hondola breaking the siege in the coming days, and then just the flood of support that's going to go in, and then just being there in solidarity with the Palestinian people as they, in the years to come, heal and rebuild their beautiful country.
Mhm. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Jason. We were pleased that you were in Italy and hung in there until finally it was the decision not to get a boat. And that, that brings up, we have a lot of challenges in putting these boats out on the water. First, finding the right ones, making sure that they're seaworthy, getting them outfitted and then sailing them, getting the crew, all volunteer crews. Everybody that works on these projects are volunteers. They pay their own way. They take time out of their lives and with their families to do this because of their dedication to having justice for the people of Palestine. One of the people that also was with us from Veterans for Peace, Barry Reish, who's from Minneapolis, who you've seen so much on our Veterans for Peace National Convention, and particularly in the Presente, as we honor those members of our organization who have passed from in the last year. And Barry keeps track of this and has very moving ceremonies. And he was with us in Istanbul. Barry, please, we'd like to hear what your observations were of our time in Istanbul.
Okay, am I on? Well, here I am.
You're on.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ann. Thanks, everybody. I'm sitting up high so you can see that this is our shirts that we wore, Break the Siege shirts. So that's why I'm sitting up so high. Anyhow, thanks, Ann. Thanks to those of you who are joining us this evening. I just want a brief introduction. Barry Reish, Chapter 27, Vietnam veteran, lifetime VFP member, been active since 1991. I've been on several delegations over the years, Vietnam, Iraq, Chiapas, Cuba, South Korea with the AN, and I've always been working to stop war. I've been allowed, I just want to read to keep track of my time. If I just let myself run at the mouth, I'll never stay within the time frame. So I've written down some things here. I've been aware and followed the brutalization of the Palestinians by the Israeli soldiers for years, and have been aware of the flotilla, but had not joined, being busy with other military madness. When October 7th happened, just like when 9/11 happened, I said, oh shit, things are going to get bad now. The horror began immediately when they started killing innocent children, which was, it is heart-wrenching for me. Plus, it was a reminder of my own involvement in war. I had to put aside what I was doing at that time and began focusing on whatever I could do to stop the madness. Pestering my legislators, occupying their offices, joining demos, weekly vigiling, formed a small group with VFPers and one of my partners here, Colleen Raleigh. We paired up and she came along to Istanbul too, and others, and we had regular meetings and planned actions, writing, etc. And just for FYI, we did pay a visit early on to the new vice presidential candidate, our Governor Walz, early on, asking him to support a ceasefire, challenging his position on being pro-Israel, and also we challenging our state on the state investments in Israel, and we continue to do that. On Friday, March 29th, Huwaida Araf was to be in town, and I not know anything about her, but had on my calendar to hear her talk. I almost missed her because Weekly Vigil wanted a speaker at the time of her talk, so I fulfilled their request and missed her talk. But it turned out she had another talk planned that evening, and that's where I heard her talk about an upcoming opportunity to join a Break the Siege flotilla to Gaza. I had been I was at a level at that point wondering to do next with myself, so it sounded like a good idea, and I joined that evening. Things were moving fast at that point, and she wanted applications filled out by Monday, and the trip would be assembling on April 11th in Istanbul. So we would try to get to Istanbul by the 11th. That was the 29th of March. And in Istanbul, we would have to commit to 2 weeks towards the trip. So I was accepted on Sunday. Ann called me and told her I was accepted. And then we had a discussion about, I had questions about the reality of what it might entail. And Ann, of course, pulled no punches. And after talking to her about the potential scenarios, I started having second thoughts. Waffling is a term that I use, especially not knowing what would happen, but based on former flotillas, likely to happen is to prepare for being separated from the group, all communication taken, and put in an Israeli jail for possibly 3 days, which is a lot of what had happened in past votes, which didn't sound like much fun to me. A small discomfort, however, compared to what Palestinians face each day, but the kind of challenges life puts before me in my life of luxury. The trip was then moved forward another week, which allowed me more time to deal with my decision, but at the same time to get ready and put my life in order. So I updated my will, informed my loved ones, all who didn't want me to go, contacted media, tried to get some media attention, deciding what to pack, knowing they were going to take everything, and how I was going to, you know, what I going to deal with cell phone and stuff like that. And after much agonizing and consulting with others, I finally gave in and decided to go. I will say, though, that it took every ounce of courage I could summon to get on that plane. And my fears did not subside as I arrived in Istanbul, either, as I struggled each night trying to get to sleep with wrestling with different scenarios and trying to psych myself into possible arrest and how I deal with three days in prison. Each time we were to leave, the trip pushed ahead 3 days. Each time it was pushed ahead 3 more days. This happened like 3 times, I think. But each time I had to recommit myself, but I was still ready to get on that boat up until the day the trip that was delayed. The highlight, as others have talked about, of course, was during the daytime meeting and interacting with my fellow possible shipmates. Each day we had really great breakfast. Each day of breakfast and interacting and meeting with like-minded folks from around the world. 42 different countries represented with brave and wonderful people. Now I'm going to slip into some slides, some of my picks. Most of our time was spent first nonviolent training and then at rallies. We had a huge rally from the Turks the day before we were leaving on our first trip. And each day between rallies, we would have another rally, which consumes most of my picks. And then after I show my slides, I've just got a couple of sentences what I want to conclude with. So, okay, so I got to shoot. And Alan has worked with me repeatedly to do this. I got it. Share a screen here. Share the screen. Good. Okay, so I think I can even make it bigger. These are not necessarily any kind of order. They look better before. I goofed it up. At any rate, this was my final night after the after the trip had been canceled, and they kind of encouraged us to go home and come back, you know, even though Jason and Colleen and Mary Beth did stay on. This was the final night. We had kind of a dinner, and this is what was left of the crew by the time I left. You can see me over here. I was a little tuckered out at that point. Not the greatest picture of me. Anyhow, and there's not any kind of order, but like I said, most of our time was spent every day. This is as we go through city streets down to our vigils. This is just showing a typical street scene in Istanbul. Pictures of Mary Beth. And how do I get rid of this? Alan, can you help me? How do I get back to not having this here?
Sort of the next whatever it is, we can't see it, so don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. You can't see it.
Right.
Just hit escape.
Escape.
Just keep going through.
Yeah, well, still not going.
Just keep going.
Okay, whatever. And this is a typical scene where we'd go. We were down at this. It was called Sultanahmet Square, where most of our activity took place. It's a beautiful park down and a part of Istanbul there. And these are just our vigils. This is our infinity group that Jason was talking about, excluding Jason. I don't know where he was. I couldn't find him. But these are Malaysian people. I just fell in love with these guys. But I just partly did it because my partner's daughter is Malaysian, and I thought he would enjoy the fact that I joined up with the Malaysian group in Istanbul. But they're just really great people. And this guy right over here, you can see his hat. He said, I've been to Minnesota. And then that day of the vigil, he had this Boundary Waters canoe hat on. So just proving to me that he had been to, and this is the typical scene. I just wanted to show a mosque so we're not in St. Paul or Minneapolis. Those mosques were all over the place down in this, in just beautiful structures. And this is I think this was the final press release or press conference we had when the trip was canceled. This is Huwaida here, and then this guy over here, Ishmael from IPP. Ihaha. This is Ishmael Bahesh, and his father was one of the people that were killed killed on the Mavi Marmara. And so he works with the humanitarian aid organization. And we made these banners, by the way. Colleen over here was responsible for most of them. And I like this, seeing the mixture of flags. I don't know if people know it or not, but Palestine is not allowed to fly their own flag. So they have this, they've developed this watermelon flag, and that's the flag they show to show their colors. Palestine won't even let them, or Israelis won't let them even fly their own flag. This is a group of the gals out in front of the hotel. And there's Ann there. This gal on the right was the therapist. And just a reminder that the sale for Gaza will happen. And this is a typical scene every night. We had a meeting talking about the day's happenings and what was coming in the future, along with interpreters for all the different languages we had. And after one of the cancellations, we decided to go visit the U.S. consulate. So we went, a few of us went to this building to speak to our U.S. consulate over there. We did get to speak to the person. I just wanted to show the building. Now this building goes into the ground. It's about 4 stories tall, brand new, multi-million-dollar building. And this is just U.S. consulate. So how many homeless people do we have in the United States? And yet we can build huge consulates around the world. You know, this is only it's not even an embassy. Just wanted to show that. And we were visited, of course, by Nelson Mandela's grandson, and everybody rushed to want to have pictures taken by him. But he said, listen, I'm here, and I'm just so proud of you guys, and I'm going to be here for as long as you want me, and to take pictures and whatnot. So this is the U.S., as much as I could find of the U.S. group, taking a picture with him. This is a really beautiful man. I think at one point he was scheduled to go on a flotilla. And this happened every afternoon. These Turkish women gathering about ceasefire. This happened down on that square every day. So we go down and join them. And this is, there's Mary Beth, and this guy, and there's Colleen. They made this sign. And this guy over here is an Iraqi, and he runs a soup kitchen in Gaza, that guy there. This is a typical scene at the meeting each night. This is a group from Spain, really a great group from Spain. These are 2 Russian guys. I just thought it was so great that we had a couple of Russian people joining us. This is the inside of a mosque, so just to get an idea what they're like. Beautiful. This is our training. We trained in a wedding place where they have weddings, of all places. And this is our trainers. And then this is, I didn't know this was being taken. I don't know if Mike is here or not, but anyhow, this is a picture of my getting to shake his hand. And this is, I'm concluding with this just as a point of interest. These things are all over the place in Istanbul. They have these, it's like the wedding dress factory of the world or something. I don't know why they have so many wedding dresses. I mean, we're talking stories, a lot of these so nobody really answered that question for me. Why in Istanbul would they have so many wedding dresses? So anyhow, so that takes care of that. And I just want to come back and close out my remarks. In conclusion, my main motivation for the trip were the children, and to do what I could do to make sure genocide not become an acceptable form of life.
Barry, you want to hit stop share so we can see you again.
Do what?
Hit stop share up at the top of your screen. There you go. You did a great job sharing. I'm really proud of you.
Wait, now I'm not done yet.
No, you're good. I'm just
Okay.
saying.
Conclusion. My main motivation for the trip were the children, and to do what I could do to make sure genocide not become an acceptable form of life for our world, and the grandchildren I'm involved with not have to grow up that kind of world. I have to say that I feel utter disgust for our U.S. government and our so-called leaders and their ongoing support of the genocide, blowing smoke about ceasefire while continuing to finance and arm Israel. The lies and deceit of Netanyahu and our Biden administration is appalling. And just about the trip itself, people say they are sorry that your trip was so unsuccessful. I ask them if they knew about the siege before, and they say no. Then I say it was successful. Many people became aware of the siege because of our trip. And I had just another note. I had a lot of people. I asked people to support me in whatever way they felt comfortable, prayer and meditation. And I wore my Strong Buffalo, my native Dakota friend put together these tobacco ties for me, and had another kind of a piece bag with me that I wore the whole time. And after getting home and processing it, I think I said that maybe our prayers were answered, because we had no idea what was going to come. We saw what happened in 2010, but the Israeli soldiers are much more out of control now than we were then. So maybe we were saved from a really fatal outcome had we actually left the port. So that's kind of what I processed it to. So thank you for listening, and I'll close myself up.
Well, thank you very much, Barry. Thank you. Those photos were excellent, and thanks for giving us a feel of of what Istanbul was like. And while we are there in Minnesota with you, I know Colleen Rowley is right there. So could you bring Colleen in and ask her to say a few words? Come on in, Colleen. Colleen Rowley is a retired FBI agent who is a whistleblower in the FBI and has written so many excellent critiques of U.S. policies over the years. So Colleen, we were so proud that you joined us. So please give us some of your observations.
Yeah, you see, Barry and I are dressed alike, and we didn't call each other ahead of time. But we're going to head here in a few minutes to drive all night long to Chicago and try to do it again. Obviously, I've been at this actually even slightly longer than Ann because this all started with 9/11 when they got the pretext to go to war and pursue this fool's errand of trying to control the world, beginning with the Mideast, all those countries, and now, frankly, up against the other nuclear superpowers. So if you, as Aaron Bushnell said, you got to do something. I mean, this is a live stream genocide, as Mary Beth said. You got to do something, and you just keep thinking of good ideas. And when you called Ann and said, you want to be on this, I said, well, you know what? It sounds like a really another good idea. A lot of these ideas, don't necessarily pan out right away, but you do achieve something. And the bottom line is we got to continue trying. It's very depressing right now to see all this lesser evilism, and the lesser evilism that is going on with the election is taking the focus off of the real problem here, which is endless perpetual war and genocide. So let's go, Barry. Let's go hold we've got Stop the Genocide banner. I painted 3 new signs today. And, if we can squeeze them into Barry's car, and we don't hit a deer in Wisconsin somehow.
Behind the wheel of the car.
Yeah. I said all the deer in Wisconsin might be worse than the IDF. I don't know. But anyway, hope to see more of you tomorrow.
It looks like Mike looks like Mike is in the audience.
Yes, I saw that he just arrived. So we want to have Michael Jacobson, who's from the state of Washington, who was a part of, pardon me, our Veterans for Peace contingent, as it turned out. So Mike Jacobson, let's have you come on and please give us your observations of what happened in Istanbul.
Well, it was, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. It was very exciting for me to, especially to meet so many people from, 30 some nations around the world, and to have that close connection with people. I think as a member of our country, being there, I felt a certain amount of support from people from around the world for that we were there and willing to put ourselves on the line to go on the flotilla. So that for me, that was the most important part of it, was just the direct face-to-face, one-on-one connections with people from around the world. It was just very heartwarming for me, very, very important. And the trainings were good too, and really liked especially the role plays. Boy, when you're put into the situation where some of the role plays were pretty scary, and what are you going to do when you're in that kind of a quasi combat type of a situation, and you have people that are very dangerous. So the role plays were very well done. Thank you for that, Anne and Elliot and others. So yeah, that's all I can think of right now.
Well, thank you
Thanks for
very much.
asking.
And thank you. And Michael and I were the very first two to arrive in Istanbul. And we were there 2 or 3 days before any other folks were there until a fella from Argentina, Dr. Carlos Trotta, 80-year-old surgeon who had been in Gaza. And I asked Michael, would you please go check on Dr. Trotta? And for the next 3 weeks, Michael Jacobson and Dr. Trotta were a duo, a dynamic duo that was really great. And we thank you so much for taking good care of Dr. Trotta. We really haven't shown you the ships that were a part of the Break the Siege. We will show you some in just a minute because I'll bring up a slideshow, but we want to show you the current ship that is underway. It's actually in Malta right now, having some repairs done, and it's part of the Flotilla program. It's called For the Children of Gaza, and here is that T-shirt, For the Children of Gaza. And this ship has been sailing through Northern Europe for the past 3 months, starting in Oslo, Norway, on the 1st of May, and going through Sweden down into Denmark, then Germany, then the Netherlands, then the UK, Ireland, France, Portugal, Spain, Italy, and now down in Malta. Ellen, could I ask you to run the very short video that shows you this tiny little ship that's making this journey?
Hello everyone, I'm Thiago Avila, a Brazilian internationalist and communicator. I'm an organizer of the Freedom Flotilla, and right now I'm on board the Handala, our boat on our humanitarian mission, sailing towards Gaza. After this mission for the children of Gaza left Norway on May the 1st and been through almost 20 ports around Europe, we are now in Malta. It has been amazing how much the Maltese people and the local solidarity groups with Palestine have received the Freedom Flotilla with so much kindness, with so much effort in all of our agendas, in all of our preparation, because Malta was very important for us to resupply for our mission, to organize a lot of stuff, to say goodbye to a lot of the amazing people that brought the Handala so far on this mission, and to say hello, to greet and to train our new crew and participants. It has been amazing to be here and seeing the community showing up on our boat, giving their support, giving their attention, and cheering for our mission for the children of Gaza. I'm actually so honored to be on board the Handala right now with people from 14 different nationalities that comes from all walks of life, but that dedicates their lives to the Palestinian people, to the Palestinian liberation, and to the liberation of all humanity. There's people here that have been doing the most amazing work non-stop, not only since October, but since many years, because we always say that it didn't start in October. It's part of a genocide and ethnic cleansing for 76 years, a military occupation since 1967 that established a colonialist, settler, apartheid state, and always ruled by the worst racist and supremacist ideology of our generation, which is Zionism. So it's very important for everyone who hopes that you can live in a world of freedom, a world of joy, a world of love, a world of peace, that we gather strength together. Please follow the Freedom Flotilla, follow our international page, follow the people that are on board the Handala. Our safety on this humanitarian mission towards Gaza depends directly on your attention and your help to share our content and to make this effort visible for everyone. We are together, a big hug, and let's break the siege and let's free Palestine.
Well, thank you very much for showing that. And that gives you a real feel of the types of things that go on with these when we stop in the various ports with these flotilla ships. Triago from Brazil was with us in Istanbul. And while he was in Istanbul, he said, I think we need to have a national campaign for the Freedom Flotilla in Brazil. And he went back in the 1st of May and created a campaign. And then we had him come back to be on the gondola. So it's been it's really wonderful to see all these new people that are coming in, and our Veterans for Peace, wonderful delegation, as it turned out. It really didn't start out as a delegation. It started out as individuals saying, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do this. And then all of a sudden we had our own VFP delegation to the flotilla. I know we've got some questions. So maybe we should go to the questions, since we only have about 12 minutes left. And while we're doing that, I'm going to share very quickly this quick little run through of let's see, start. Okay, slideshow. And that you can see some of the other ships of the flotilla. Just so you'll get a picture. This is in 2008 of the very first boats that actually got into Gaza. 2 very small boats, 44 people on the 2 boats. This was with the Free Gaza movement. They were able to go into Gaza 5 times, but then at the end of 2008, Operation Cast Lead started, and no more ships have been able to get into Gaza since late 2008. You can see the people in Gaza City right on the docks that were welcoming these 2 ships, the very first ones that had come into Gaza in over 40 years. And one of the, that didn't last long though, and the Israelis started ramming the ship called Dignity and almost sank it. It had Nobel Peace Laureate Maureen McGuire on it, and former U.S. Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. You can read more about it in a book called Freedom Sailors. And then 2010 with the Marvi Marmara, the large ship with 600 people on it. And you've seen the pictures in the film of the 10 people that were killed and 50 wounded. Other boats that were on that flotilla in 2010, the passenger ship Svendoni. Let's see. These are 2 smaller boats. I was on one of these, the Challenger 1 and 2. And then the Irene, a Jewish ship to Gaza that only carried 13 people, stopped, as you can see, by the Israeli commandos. We have, in 2011, the 10 ships that were stalled in Greece. And this is the Audacity of Hope, the U.S. boat. 1 small boat out of the 10 was able to escape and actually headed toward Gaza from July 2010, and then in 2011, and then 2011, 2 more ships were able to go to about 70 miles off Gaza in international waters where they were stopped. 2012, the big sailing ship Estelle. In 2015, the fishing vessel Mariana, plus 3 small sailboats. In 2016, the women's boat to Gaza, the Zaytuna, Olive, and Amal. And things that happened, the Amal didn't even get out of the harbor of Barcelona till the engine seized. The Hondola, which we will see, we just saw the visual on the video. 2003, it was just up in Northern Europe. And then in 2000, let's see. Okay, that was out of order. 2018, we had the Al-Ada and the Freedom. The Al-Ada is very similar to the Hondola today, and the Freedom was a sailboat. 2 sailboats went through Central Europe, through the rivers and canals of Central Europe, being stopped in Paris by the maritime police. Then in 2024, we have the Hondola again that's gone all the way from Norway and is down in Malta now. And some of the pictures of the events that we have along the way. And in Malta again. And the graphics on the gondola. And then these are the ships that were in Istanbul. This is the Akdeniz, a very large passenger ferry boat that could have taken, and we hope in the future will take hundreds and hundreds of people. This was one of the boats that we were ready to sail, and the night before we were to sail on this, the flag of this was pulled. Then the other two ships, the cargo ship, the large cargo ship on the left that can carry 5,500 tons, and then the small passenger ship on the right that can carry about 150 people. These are ones that we are still working with the government of our IHAHA and Mavi Marmara every day are going to the Turkish government to try to get the permission for these to sail, so we can sail them as a part of the flotilla. Every campaign needs a T-shirt, and you've seen several of them, and on the backs of them we have the history of the flotilla on there. And we do have plenty of resources for everyone if you'd like more information. We do have several questions, I'm sure, and would have a few minutes left, and our panelists would be glad to answer them. I haven't been keeping track of the questions here, but maybe if people raise their hands and we can recognize you. And if somebody can call out if they see hands being raised. Or somebody just say, I have a question. Anybody have a question? Okay, any of our panelists have a final word that you'd like to say?
There is, there, I think
Diane's got
there's a
waving.
person, yeah, with the, well, Mike Twine there, but there was a gal over here with their hand up. There she
Okay,
is.
Mike Wong, go ahead.
Diane and Bob Baker.
Okay.
I have a question in terms of flagging a vessel. Would it be possible to get a friendly government like Nicaragua or Venezuela to allow you to flag a vessel under their flag?
We have been we have a whole team of lawyers investigating the various options there. The political consequences of which one we pick, and of course the two that you name probably would not be pressured by the US or Israel. But we do have a team of lawyers trying to get that flagging issue resolved for that. Thank you, Mike. Let's see, Ron. I see Ron's hand raised.
Yeah, hi, it's Ron Bethe. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Not so much of a question. I'm with the Schiller Institute and the International Peace Coalition. I've taken part in quite a bit of the conference. I did put in the chat two things. One is an OASIS plan, a development plan for peace through development, which has been literally discussed in various ways for 50 years, and it's time it gets actualized. And then secondly, this Friday will be the 64th in a row International Peace Coalition. Many of the people on tonight have been participants in that in various ways. And I'm not only inviting people to join, but also for the Veterans for Peace to decide if, put together a team of 2 or 3, whatever, to give a report on Friday. That would really be excellent. So,
okay. Well, thank you, Ron, and we'll take that under advisement. Somebody with them.
Diane and Bob Baker, and
okay, Bob Baker, go ahead.
Diane, go ahead, Dan. You have to unmute. You have to unmute. Unmute. Unmute, Diane.
I'll text her.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. Get unmuted there.
Did she unmute? Oh, she hung up.
Hey, Diane Baker. Hey, Bob Baker. Good to see you in Dallas, Texas.
Now you can talk. Now you're unmuted.
Well, we can't hear you. You need to unmute again.
Technology.
There you go. I think it works now. Well, we don't.
So great to see you, Diane.
All right, okay.
We hear you.
Yes, it's good to hear everybody speak. And I have a question, and that is, are there any do you have to go through a way of saying, okay, we'll take you, you're okay?
Yes, because we want to make sure that Diane Baker doesn't get on that boat. No, we would love to have you on that boat, Diane. Yes, we do have a vetting process. And I mean, I say that to Diane because we've known each other for the last 20 years, so we can joke with each other. But we do have a vetting process. Every applicant has to fill out an extensive application, and we call up the references to make sure that we know the person, and then they go through training to make sure that they can withstand what we anticipate would be pretty brutal treatment from the Israeli forces. So we do a real, we want to make sure those who actually get on the boats are prepared for what may happen, because it's not an easy voyage, and when one is stopped by the Israelis, it's not a pleasant thing at all. So yes, we do vet them, and great to see you and great to see Bob. You all take care of Texas.
We're trying.
Good luck on that. Arla and John, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Ann. This is John Wilkes, Chapter 63, Albuquerque. The Israelis are boarding in international water. Understanding that your resources are limited, have you ever considered bringing a piracy action against the Israelis for their disgusting and illegal activity?
Well, thank you. That's a good question. The Israelis are just like the U.S. government. They break international law all the time and there are no repercussions from it. We have sued the Israeli government in Turkish court and in U.S. court. And the U.S. government, the State Department, came to federal court in Washington, D.C. 6 years or 7 years ago on our lawsuit, and testified that the Israeli government should not be held accountable for what they did. So we do sue them, and we also sue them in Israeli court. We have actually gotten 2 of the boats back. And one campaign was paid for the boat that was taken because of how to say it. The Israeli military didn't follow its own rules. I mean, like it has rules anyway. So we take every opportunity to use lawfare in our challenging of Israel. We certainly do. Thank you. Thank you. I think we are now at the end of our hour and a half, and I know that it's been a long process since Friday afternoon for all of you all who have stuck with the excellent Veterans for Peace National Convention. We want to thank all the folks that put the convention together, and also all the people behind the scenes, Ellen and Becky and all of the others that have made this work with Zoom. And we look forward, hopefully next year we can meet in person finally, after all too many years of doing Zoom. So we thank you all so very much for being with us, and free Palestine, free Palestine.
Free
Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Everybody unmute and say it.
Free Palestine. From the river to the
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Come on, Jason, you're yelling
Free
at Palestine.
Palestine.
Free
Free
Palestine.
Palestine.
Free Palestine.
I wonder
Free
if Gary
Palestine.
will-
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
At the front.
Free Palestine.
Thank you all very much. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Which